Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Today is close to the 6 month anniversary of me acquiring the Chevy Volt. Now, one of my February videos when I had recently acquired it, I was kind of going over the features just briefly. It was cold out. We had kind of a cold February, and I purchased a 2012 Chevy Volt with 11,000 miles on it. I think it was 11,500 miles on it. Now, I'm kind of parked facing the sun. It's late afternoon. It has 16,698 miles on it. And the most common question I get is, what sort of gas mileage are you getting? And I have to give a very long-winded answer because it really depends on the car's operational envelope. What environment are you driving it in? Let's look at trip A. I gassed about 2 weeks ago, and I put 180 miles in the car, and I've not used a drop of gasoline. So essentially, I'm getting infinity miles to the gallon. The display caps out at 250, but I'm getting about, essentially, I'm not using gas. I'm driving it in pure electric mode. I've got about, anywhere from a 16 to 18 mile round trip work commute based on which route I take. And I'm pretty much running in all EV mode. My electric bill's gone up by about $30 a month, so it's about $1 a day to charge the car, maybe a little less in the summertime because I'm not using as much electricity. It costs about $1 a day to fully charge it. As you can see, I've got a little more than half left on the battery. Let's go to trip B. I was hoping to keep a lifetime average, but I accidentally reset it back in June. So around June 20th, I was going on a road trip and I gassed the car. And since that time, I've driven 2,000 miles. I live in the Twin Cities metro, so I did a road trip to a little town 2 hours west. So it was like 200 miles over a weekend. And then I did another road trip in July to my hometown in Bismarck, North Dakota, and that's about 435 miles one way, with some incidental driving. That was about a 900-mile round-trip road trip. So 2,000 miles, 28.5 gallons. So overall for the summer, I'm getting about 71 miles to the gallon, including 2 road trips and plus all my commuting and stuff. So as you can see, a very fuel efficient car. If I were to say, okay, well, what are you getting on pure gas mode when you're driving the car? It again varies depending on how you're driving it. If I'm on the highway in North Dakota, 70 plus mile an hour speed limit, 75 actually is the legal maximum out there. I was getting about 40, anywhere from 38 to 40, depending on headwinds and if I was running the AC or not and things like that. So pretty decent. Again, it was kind of funny. The irony was the Nissan Altima that I rented last year for a road trip, I was getting 40 plus miles to the gallon. So as far as highway cruising range goes, the Altima would be better than a Volt. But the Volt wins as far as the daily commuting, and that's basically 95% of my driving is in EV mode. If we go over here to the center stack display, you can see the energy usage. Today's commute was 18 miles, 4 kilowatt hours used, again, Infinity MPG. The lifetime average of this car is 191 miles to the gallon. So whoever had this car before me was a guy in Iowa who had leased it before it was sent to auction, and I purchased it as a used car. I think plugged it in quite a bit. So over the past 16,600 and some miles, we've been getting 191 miles to the gallon. So we can do the math on that as far as the gallons that this car has used for the past 3 years that's been in service. So there you have it. I thought I'd just give a quick kind of the 6-month check-in. I would like to do some more videos as far as driving the car and things like that. But you can just kind of see that, it's been a quite useful car. The only service I've had done to it was a recall for an emissions canister, software update, and the rear hatch struts apparently were a bit on the weak side, so they upgraded those for me as well. If we do a charging thing, so it's 5:51 p.m. If I were to charge it now, it'd be done 120 volt mode at 9:45 or 7:15 if I had a 240 outlet. And I'm using the 120 standard household current with the car's onboard charger to charge it. I'm thinking of upgrading to 220. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But most of the time, again, with my commute and what I use the car for, it sits here overnight. I can keep it fully charged with the standard 110 onboard charger. So again, I really do like this car. I know a lot of people, it's very I like to use the word polarizing because either people seem to like the Volt, love the Volt, like the technology, have a lifestyle that works well with it. Mine does. There are people, there's a political background to this car, and General Motors and bailouts and things like that, and some people don't like the car because of that. And I do agree. I'm more of a free marketeer, but really here I can't argue with the results. I mean, the car, I shopped for a long time looking for a car that would fit my lifestyle, and this one really has fit the bill. As far as fitting goes, I'm about 6'4", and yeah, it's a bit sparse on headroom, and it is a bit of a pain for me to get in and out of it. But once you're in, you're comfortable, and I can drive this thing almost 1,000-mile road trips at super highway speeds and be totally comfortable and safe. And it works like a normal car. Typical General Motors air conditioning. It'll you could turn the car into a freezer in a matter of minutes. So again, really not much else to add. So if you're looking at getting a hybrid or an EV or something, or even if you ever really thought about it, think about it. You might like it. Have a good evening.